Hi, I'm Jane Marks, and this is From the Heart. Each week we dive into topics that impact teens and their families. Well, today we're going to take a look at an issue that we don't talk about often, but that impacts teens in so many ways: immigration. As a nation, we recognize that this country was built on the backs of immigrants, many of whom chose to come here, and many of whom were forced to come. Immigration and its implication for teens is critical knowledge. Well, here to break this down are two of the most recognized immigration attorneys in the Southeast, Elizabeth Ricci and Neil Rambana. This dynamic married couple have been working in the area of immigration for more than 20 years. They are known for their exceptional contribution to this field and also for their extensive knowledge of immigration and its implication for families. Elizabeth and Neil, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, I'm so happy. And listen, we're going to start with you, Neil. And I'm so curious as to how you became so interested and focused on immigration.
What a great question. And it's all thanks to my wife and law partner, Elizabeth Ricci. Mm-hmm. When I came up to Tallahassee, I thought I was going to do personal injury law.
Oh.
And so I was working at a personal injury firm. She was doing lobbying. And it was because of a special law that passed in April of 2001, mm-hmm. that was expiring in April of 2001, that we decided, based on her father's advice, who's an immigration lawyer, that we needed to do our own thing.
So your father was an attorney?
Right, but Neil's also not mentioning he's an immigrant himself, which I think had a big part of it.
It worked. Mm-hmm. Once we were introduced to this opportunity with immigration law, and the fact that I knew from experience, from my parents' experience of what they went through to become permanent residents and then eventually citizens, that this is a good fit and I could help a lot of other people just like me.
Now, he mentioned this 2001 law. What was that law?
It was called 245I, a section of the Life Act that basically said if you had entered without inspection, you could stay in the United States if you paid a fine by April 30th and filed by April 30th of 2001. You know, immigration law takes so long. We still have 245I cases that are pending.
That's over 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So your interest with regards to immigration was a family experience?
It was family and I think kismet, just because I already spoke Spanish. We were living here. He's an immigrant. And it was a great fit because the law was changing and we wanted to do our own thing, so we figured we'd hit the ground running, and that's what we did. You know,
it's interesting to me because you're a couple, and that I think couples so often share different interests, but you brought your interest in immigration. Did that bring you together, or were you already?
I think our personalities was something that we were both young and eager, and we just knew, and hungry. Mm-hmm. And as young graduates, we wanted to make a difference, and this really was an opportunity.
And it really hit home.
A difference. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was exciting.
Okay, so now for teens across the country, one of the questions, because I ran into Elizabeth actually in the grocery store, and I said, why do you think it is so critical that teens become familiar with immigration, and its implications?
Well, people don't realize that we are a unique country in that we have birthright citizenship, right? So if you're born in this country, you have all the rights of U.S. citizenship, irrespective if your parents were here undocumented or have been here since the Mayflower. Mm-hmm. But what people don't also realize is that with all of those rights and benefits come responsibilities. And young people, especially, I think we're all guilty of it, are used to the rights, the responsibilities, the benefits, but they don't realize that there's a part of that that's a responsibility. Young people have to be informed about what's going on in their society. Mm-hmm. They have to be active in their communities, joining civic organizations. They have to vote, run for office, right? Those are part of being American. It's not just the ability to have U.S. citizenship and all of the rights and goodies that come with that.
Yeah. And I'd like to go and also say that they don't recognize the sacrifices that their grandparents or even great-grandparents or parents have made for them, and what they have fled or have decided to give this country an opportunity are doing here by not seeing that it is hard. It can be very hard for someone to leave a country and start anew and to build from zero to something, what we like to say, from zero to hero.
From zero to hero. I like that.
And for them not to recognize that there was a lot of hard work that went into that. And the fact that they were afforded that opportunity to do that, you need to protect. And as a young person, you need to understand your immigration history and this nation as a nation of immigrants.
I think we are beginning to understand clearly the importance of immigration and why it is so critical. When we return, we're going to be talking about advice that both Neil and Elizabeth have for young immigrants and their families. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, as we continue to talk about immigration, Elizabeth, we're going to start with this question. When teens and perhaps their families present in your office, what issues are they likely to face?
Most of the teens that we see were born here, right? So they're U.S. citizens, and they usually want to help mom and dad, who did not probably enter with permission. So they need sponsorship, but you have to be 21 years old to sponsor your mom or your dad. So then we have the issue of they can't do it right away. They need to wait. What's going to happen between now and then? The teens are worried about what's going to happen to little brother or sister if mom or dad's not at the bus stop to pick them up because they got picked up. So we talk about how you can protect your family. Do you need a power of attorney for your mom and dad? What's going to happen with the bank account? But those are the conversations that need to take place while heads are still cool, before there's an issue, before someone gets picked up, when emotions are high and then people aren't usually thinking rationally. So have a plan, I would say, is
Yeah. And if things get to the point where they are detained, they are picked up, the parents are picked up, then typically that's when I get involved for purposes of trying to communicate to the court that, one, they should receive bond because they're not a danger or a flight risk. They've been in the country sometimes 20 years easily and have been very productive. And two, that they have discretionary relief available because they have been here and been good people paying taxes and not getting into any serious criminal matter. And so that allows the family, when we talk to them about those things, and hopefully we talk to them before it actually happens, they know that, okay, I do have some benefit possibly available if something were to happen to my family. So that helps with the teen that comes in and knows that their parents are undocumented and are vulnerable to being picked up. But we can't help everyone. And so sometimes we do have to, tell them this is exactly how it is and there's just nothing we can do for you. Just do your best to be a family and enjoy each other, but sometimes they're so far into violating the immigration law that we just need to let them know it's not going to happen, and that's hard.
So
they shouldn't sign anything they don't understand either, which is very common. People are presented with a document, they say, oh, you want to get out of here? Well, just sign here. Maybe they don't read English, or maybe because they're nervous and it's an emotional, scary time they sign, and now they've signed away their rights to a hearing. So, and that's a good life lesson. You never sign anything that you don't understand.
good point.
On another note, when we do have children who have come in who are undocumented and have no parents because they were abandoned or their parents are dead, then we try to navigate with a family lawyer to get them what is called a dependency order, so they can now apply with immigration under a special immigrant application to give them permanent residency. So we try to do those things that will help a young person who is destitute and has no ties back home and are in the United States to be on a right path of productivity and become legal.
Now, so you just mentioned an important point, because you use the term destitute. So many people don't have resources. You must be inundated with numbers of people who don't have the resources. How do you manage all that and try to balance that with the practice?
Well, we have an obligation, and we know, and I know from my parents, their experience, that sometimes people just don't have money, and so
Right.
sometimes people just can't do it, and so we have to accept that and do what we can to help as best as possible. And if we can't personally, because the reality of us running a business, then we're going to do our best to put them in hands that can help them. FSU Law School has been good to us. There are other legal services of North Florida that have been good to us, and we've helped them if they ask us to help with those children.
Suppose I'm living in a small community, Elizabeth, Texas, where we see a lot of this. How do I go about looking for those kinds of resources to help not only myself, but my family as well?
There are law clinics, like Neil mentioned. You can find out usually from a law school or a legal aid program. But ironically, you have the right to an attorney in a criminal case in this country. But an immigration violation is almost never criminal. So you don't have the right to an attorney. So we have heard of cases of children representing themselves in deportation hearings. They are not entitled to an attorney. So we do, as attorneys, we have an obligation to do pro bono law. My pro bono niche is for U.S. military veterans who are stateless. Neil does a lot of pro bono for abused women. They have special laws under the Violence Against Women Act, special protections. But there's lawyers who will have a niche or a clinic that you can go to. You can call a bar association and ask for a referral.
And we're members of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, which is wonderful, and they will...
It's a great resource.
Incredible resource, and they will help to identify what's available in that particular area.
We can certainly see why this very dynamic couple is so recognized, because what we're hearing, and teens listen up, is we're hearing a lot of giving back. We'll be right back. Well, we're back, and we're talking about building that knowledge base for immigration. And so in continuing this talk, Elizabeth, bring us up to speed on the hot topics in immigration. What should we know today?
Well, today is part of the H-1B registration. So this is a way to get foreign workers who have specializations and have degrees to work for American companies. But because we're not educating enough people in certain areas, we have to import that talent. But we only have about 65,000 visas available. Wow. And we have over 300,000 who will apply. So right now is the registration period. If you get selected, then you can apply in April. So it's a very busy time for people who do business immigration. And also we have what's called the National Interest Waiver, which is something that I concentrate on. It's a self-sponsored green card for people who are what's considered exceptional.
So you have to give an example of...
So, inventors, scientists, I've had people who have businesses here in town that are national businesses. You would recognize the name. Young people who have this idea, they market it, they do well, and then they can end up sponsoring themselves because of the economic impact of their idea.
Wow.
So what's neat about it is you can sponsor yourself. You don't need an employer. However, because we have a quota system in this country, China and India are not in the same line as other countries, and they can be several years behind, which is disappointing because we have so many educated people from China and India. We want them working now, but the system could use some improvements, I'll say.
And I saw Neil, he was ready to talk. He was ready to add on, so we want to know exactly what I could see it.
Her work is so exciting to me. It's just incredible, because when you talk about giving back to this country, I don't think there's a greater way of giving back by bringing in this talent. The talent includes people who work in the cancer field, people who are engineers who have developed things to detect earthquakes, people who've designed a little insulation bag that you would see in Publix and the end of a shelf, and you think, oh, that's just for cold goods and stuff. They use it for prescription medication. They use it for organ transplants to get it to. I mean, those are things that have made a difference in our country because we brought that person in.
So you're talking about young immigrant entrepreneurs, or probably old ones too. But if you were to say, then this is my advice to you, given your situation, because I'm sure you've had to do this multiple times. Where do you start?
Come up with a plan.
Come up with a plan.
So if you want to open a business, it's most doable. This country is about what can you bring to us? What can you bring to the table? And if you can come up with a business plan, you can open a business and get a visa to bring in your family and work in the United States and be productive and have your children go to school, but you have to come up with that plan. And if you don't have that plan, then there are resources that can help you. There are businesses that are turnkey organizations. You could go to a Dunkin' Donut or a convenience store and you can invest in that, which is giving back to your community. And that's an idea for you to be able to get your children here, which most people want because they know that they're going to get a great education. And especially in Tallahassee, we like to promote how great our schools are, and that helps a lot.
Let's say you meet immigrants here in this area and you're giving advice to their families, let's say in Utah. What do you say to them?
Well, you have to be bold, right? You have to ask questions, you have to get involved. I was telling you a moment ago about the responsibilities of citizenship, civic engagement. You can also join chambers of commerce. You can network, and part of networking, getting awards, getting recognition for your business economic impact is one way to get a green card. But it's not going to come to you. This is not a country where you're rewarded for doing nothing. You have to go out there and seek opportunities.
You know, I think that is so important when you talk about going out and seeking opportunities, because you have to be assertive.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, what about those people who have established themselves and they're working? They're teachers and they already have these wonderful jobs, and then all of a sudden they are spotted, or I didn't even know how that process takes place, because you'll be sitting in a classroom and all of a sudden the next day your teacher will be gone. How does that work?
Well, there's something called I-9 compliance, and you can speak about that, and that you have to have proper documentation to be in our system to work. And if you don't have that, and you have run afoul of immigration by not having that authorization, they have in the past been looking people up, and when they do audits of certain businesses, if they see that the person doesn't have the proper papers, they'll pick them up. They're deportable. But they're even though they're deportable, most times they have an opportunity to ask a judge if they've been in the country for quite a while.
As long as they don't sign their rights away.
Right, that's right. But hopefully, because the person is an educator, as you pointed out, that they will know better with regards to asking to see an immigration judge if they want to contest them being deported.
Well, do you think there are a lot of people that are still operating under the radar? I mean, are there hundreds and hundreds of people operating under the radar just waiting for...
Millions.
Millions? Oh my goodness.
About 11 to 15 million people in the United States who are undocumented.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that many. Well, you know what? You don't want to miss a minute of this. We'll be back after a short break. You know, we're back and we're learning so much about immigration. And, you know, Neil, certainly there are issues, you know, with regard to the border, but there's so many more issues going on when it comes to immigration. You know, and I know we're sort of in the final segment, but what do you think right now are the most pressing issues given the state of the world at this point?
That's a really important question, and right now we need to focus on those people who are being displaced by war in Ukraine.
Right.
We have to do better with regards to helping as best as possible humanitarian-wise. We have just recently put into place something called temporary protected status for Ukrainian citizens and anyone with Ukrainian affiliation that will be able to be helped if they are in the United States to get employment and to be able to be protected while the war in Ukraine is ongoing. We don't have enough being done for those that are right there in the heart of the war. And that's what we're working on with the American Immigration Lawyers Association and Congress to get, and the President, to have something put through as quickly as possible for those people to take advantage of becoming either refugees and or asylees to evacuate a very dangerous situation. We would love for them not to have to do that, but under the circumstances now, it's very important that we protect those families with this immigration benefit.
Same is true for Afghanistan, but we haven't given them temporary protective status, and we evacuated Afghans over 4 months ago, and they're already here in the United States. Still no TPS for them, but we've already given TPS to Ukraine. So,
Why do you think that's the case?
you know, we saw it with Haiti. Haiti, I thought, deserved TPS 25 years ago, and they only recently got it after the earthquake. So there's a lot of issues behind why immigration is the way that it is. That's a whole other show, Jane. But the message I would like to relay is that we're a great country, and we're a great country because of immigration, not despite immigration. So kids need to embrace their neighbor, because for us to maintain greatness, we can't have this us versus them mentality. That's what led to the Holocaust, right? Us versus them doesn't work. We need to embrace, work together, and continue on the trajectory of greatness that is this country.
You know, I think one thing we understand, and let's be really clear, immigration is an extraordinarily important issue. And today we have talked to two powerhouses in immigration policy. We've learned a lot. I hope for so many of you it's made a difference. It certainly made a difference for me. And so until next week, I am Jane Marks, and this is From the Heart.